What's up, Elder Scrolls Nation? Skullzi here, and this is episode 5 of Scribing the Scrolls, the Elder Scrolls 6 and Elder Scrolls themed podcast. Today I am here, obviously, and Samantha is here.
Hello.
And Panda's back.
Hey guys, glad to be back.
So today we're going to mostly just be talking about kind of our wish list for things that we'd like to see in the Elder Scrolls 6. And I'd like to hear about what you guys want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6 too, so comment that below. And in a future video, we might respond to that comment, because at the end of this video, we're all going to respond to some comments as well. So make sure you sit around and get to that point, because it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, so let's start with you, Sam. What do you want to see in Elder Scrolls 6 that kind of comes to your mind? What things would make Elder Scrolls 6 certainly one of your favorite Elder Scrolls?
I have some big things and some small things, so maybe I'll mention some brief little things. I really want some better hair. I mean, it does nothing for the gameplay, but geez.
I hate to be that guy, but of course the girl would like the better hair.
I need better hair. I need it.
No, I understand.
I mean, or more outfit choices.
Where are the high heel armors?
Right. Yeah. Flexy hair. Yeah, blow in the wind.
So you want hair physics? That would be pretty cool.
Oh,
That would be pretty next level stuff.
Another thing is I'm not really fond of the wood gathering system. I think it should be more realistic. I think it should be like going out and gathering your herbs and stuff. You go out, you find a limb on the ground, or
you chop down a
tree. Yeah, actually chop down the tree. I feel it's a shortcut. I don't like shortcuts.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's rare metals. Why not rare wood to make better bows with that you can find? That makes sense.
They make you mine the mineral ores, right? So
Mm-hmm.
why not chop down the tree?
That makes sense.
So another grand idea I kind of have, and I know other people have wanted it also, actually having a child with your spouse, whoever it may be, and having a child that looks kind of like a good mix between you and them. Maybe they start out with a little skill tree with some, one point here because your dad was great at this or something. Or you can boost them by doing activities with them. Right. Maybe you had the child. Stipulations could be that the spouse had to stay home and you went out on a quest, you come back and boom, you have a 5-year-old child.
Yeah.
But, so you can skip the baby stage because I don't really think that's necessary.
Sure, like that's an acceptable shortcut.
Right, and they could maybe even age, like in some stages, like elementary aged, preteen, teen, young adult.
And then they could come with you on adventures. That would be pretty awesome.
And then,
you go to rest in your cabin with your family, and in the middle of your rest, the guards knock on your door, and they have your son with one of your axes that came from your inventory and said that he was busting up barrels in the middle of the night.
+2 to sneak.
Yeah, and imagine like if they gave you maybe an extra follower. I know there's follower mods, but like don't make us have as many mods. Give me 2 followers. I can take my
you want more followers. Okay.
And an older child with me eventually.
Oh, a party family.
Ooh.
Like,
Yeah.
that's cool.
That would be pretty awesome, an adventuring family. That'd be just to go based off your thing about the wood.
Maybe.
Dragonborn, your son was stole the sweet rolls. That would be one of the random events. No, what else do you have? Those are pretty good ideas.
Another one, well, probably the last one that I'd really like to mention is a pet. Now, I know it may be difficult to... Sometimes I get tired of having a pet follow me through everything. So if they said, okay, you could have a pet, but it's treated more like a furnishing. It can only stay in your home. You can interact with it. It's kind of like you select a spot for it or whatever. If it had a function, it could be defense. Now, how Skyrim is, you don't need that.
Fallout 4 has the settlement and the homestead, so maybe that could be in the Elder Scrolls 6. That would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And like, you would need something like that if they had the program that people actually could break in, like other characters could break into your stuff.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you come home and there's a couple of dead bodies because a couple of people tried to And your pet
Well,
saber-toothed tiger.
And imagine, too, with what Skullzi said, if you had a settlement, like, all the things you could micromanage, which I love.
Like a town builder phase of the game.
Strategy, micromanage, organization.
Sure, oh yeah.
Maybe even managing a little bit of economy, selling your things here, sending people to defend your trade routes, having a little army to take this area. Ooh, now we're getting big.
Yeah, but it's almost like in a game where you can like dive into the sandbox from like a third-person perspective or a first-person perspective, to be able to like pan out and be able to look at it from like a town builder is kind of really unique and interesting too.
That would be cool. I could almost see this idea having a big influence if the Elder Scrolls 6 took place in Akavir, because then you'd be a colonist, building up your colonies, taking new lands, building your homesteads, managing this trade route, forging alliances with the different races of Akavir. That would be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
that would be pretty epic. That would be pretty cool. So it's like you're managing not only your towns, but when you really zoom out even further beyond the town, beyond the town level, now you're looking at empire and your diplomacy and your factions.
Empire management.
And you can tie in your family, and maybe they can have specific jobs.
And then it turns into Civ.
And then it's Game of Thrones. No, it's Game of Thrones Civ, essentially, is what it would be. And that doesn't sound that bad.
I think there is a Game of Thrones mod.
I'm sure there is for Civ. There probably is.
Well, I love Civ, so...
There's an Elder Scrolls one. At least there was for the last Civ. I don't know about this one. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Spore.
Spore is a good one, yeah. I played a lot of Spore. I remember there's supposed to be an aquatic part to where after you went from cell before you went to land, you're going to be a sea creature, but they cut that out. And it sucks because that's the part I look forward to the most for some reason. I don't know why.
They have one like that for Nintendo DS.
Okay.
Nice.
Spore was still really good though. I mean, you can micromanage everything, even your national anthem that plays when you take over a planet and all that kind of stuff. Panda, what do you want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6?
Probably a bigger emphasis on like naval travel and naval battles, right? Privateering for us, or just guarding a merchant ship. We're going from one port to another, and all of a sudden pirates attack us. How cool would that be? We did just one job, and we guarded them the whole way, and we didn't get attacked. Made some money upon arrival, and then we tried to go back the same way and make money again, only this time we got attacked, and
Or you could find like ancient sea temples, like where you see it
definitely
poking out from the surface,
and you go down the ladder into this thing under the water.
More aquatic monsters.
That would be cool, and that touches into the recent video I did about boats and ship exploration.
Yeah,
that definitely no. I was just saying it touches into a video, the last video that I just did about ship stuff. So that would be a great idea, and that could add even more depth to all that, because we haven't really seen a true Elder Scrolls sea or ocean kind of experience yet.
Yeah,
I'm talking,
and it's so easy. Like they tried to do it a little bit in Morrowind.
A little bit.
It was just mostly like load screen fast travel, right? And for the most part, I that's like really efficient, and there's no real reason to change that. But like, how cool would it be if all of a sudden in the middle of your load screen for the fast travel, you didn't load up in the location you thought you were going to at the dock, right? And you're in the middle of the sea. There's another boat next to you. There are people swinging onto your boat. There's cannons firing.
Oh, that would be fucking cool.
And then after that battle is completed, right, gives you an option. Do you want to continue your fast travel? Yes or no? And then you say yes, and then all of a sudden the load screen continues, and now you're at the dock where you're supposed to be.
That would be pretty awesome. Yeah, ships is something that hasn't really been touched on too much in the Elder Scrolls, and I think even managing your ship and your crew, and you can find like a rare NPC in some village that needs help, and you help him out, and suddenly he has a bunch of mage friends who don't have a home, so they go to your ship, and now your ship has mages on it that can shoot fireballs at other ships and all sorts of crap.
Which sounds super awesome.
Yeah, 2 ships at night and just arrows and fire getting shot back and forth. Oh man, and then a fucking kraken appears in between them, and just everything goes to hell, because that's what would happen in the Elder Scrolls after all. No, Pompey, you cannot go on top of the table where the microphone is. Khajiit, he's an Elfique. He's smart.
I'd also like to see more real in-game consequences for the choices that we make. Right,
yeah,
like if I'm in the middle of a mission and I make a decision in a split second, accidentally kill an ally, maybe a member of that ally's family comes seeking me for retribution or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it changes like other NPCs' speech to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I'm supposed to save this guy from this little village nearby, but I failed, so now everyone's mad at me there. and there's like really little to no way to kind of change that, or it's like really hard to change that.
That kind of could go well with what Sam was saying about building up homesteads and stuff, because if you have a reputation, other people may not want to ally with you, other towns may not want anything to do with you, your people may eventually rebel, and you have to go to this settlement and quell the rebellion. And it wouldn't be the first time that the Empire or whoever tried to colonize Akavir. One of the relatives of Tiber Septim tried to colonize Akavir, and there's a bunch of storms and issues that eventually caused the colony to fail because they weren't getting enough reinforcements and supplies.
You could eventually face uprisings if your approval is, below a certain threshold.
And then suddenly you lose everything, and then you have to somehow find a way to get back into the good graces of your own faction as an outsider and rise back through the ranks. Or I don't know how, man.
That would be really
That would be really in-depth. I don't think that all this could happen, but could you imagine just how fucking amazing that would be?
Or maybe you just add some of the dimensions of what we've been talking about onto...
Cherry pick it, yeah.
Yeah, just make it just a little bit deeper as well, because every artist wants something deep to work on, right? And these people who make the games are probably no different, right? And so they don't want to run into walls either.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully some of these ideas will spread and cause some changes and make them want to work on an Elder Scrolls 6 game.
I think that they might secretly be working on it, and I say that because Bethesda Game Studios, a lot of people don't know this, but they have 2 separate development studios with 2 separate development teams, each that could be working on a separate project. And Bethesda's very secretive. They've already proved this when they said that Fallout 4 was not even in development and then released it later that year, which means they were developing it for 4 or 5, however many years. So Bethesda says they're releasing 2 new games. Yeah, they might be doing that, but they may be working on Elder Scrolls 6 this whole time. They say the technology for what their vision is for the Elder Scrolls 6 does not exist yet. So maybe, usually when they're talking about technology, it means console games, because PC is always far ahead, and they have to scale stuff back so that it can be played on console. So maybe they're saying that the next generation of the Xbox and the PlayStation, maybe when that comes out, the Elder Scrolls 6 could be a launch title.
That's very possible. Xbox One came out within 5 years?
Oh, yeah. 4 or 5 years. It seems longer than that, but no, I'm pretty sure it was post-2012. I think I moved back to where I am now from Chicago around 2012, so the world didn't end, and we got the Xbox One. That was our reward. That was a pretty good one with the ships.
I would like to see more of an emphasis on like guns and ranged weapon, explosive weapons, right? Something that where like I'm not just restricted to being an archer if I don't want to go magical, right? Because like magic's really powerful, so it's easy to keep making characters that rely on magic, right? I kind of feel like if we had some access to some like firearms, you have another ranged option.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Cats are fighting. Uh-oh, you guys always like to be loud, huh? Okay.
Also, maybe another skill other than healing, like the magical restoration skill. Maybe another skill tree like medical, or maybe a triage skill tree, and you could treat wounds in a more physical manner instead.
With bandages and such.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Now you have a reason to pick up these things when you come across them as loot.
Maybe a survival skill tree to where not only is it, like you said, harvesting wood, making fires, kind of like the Frostfall mod and the Campfire mod for Skyrim, but also in that skill tree is healing yourself and other people and finding better versions of herbs. If you put enough points into survival, you know how to harvest more of Dragon's Tongue without damaging the plant, so now you get 2 Dragon's Tongue harvesting the plant.
Maybe like core survival traits.
Which Elder Scrolls, as the kind of game it is, it should have that in it, in my opinion. I mean, it's about a big fantasy world that you're thrust into. Now it's up to you to survive and find your way and find out what's going on. And
you could even like go extreme with that and throw in like crafting as a skill and make it relatable to
gunsmithing.
Well, there's a mod where cold and heat affect you. If you're out in the rain in Skyrim, you have to build a tent for shelter. Okay, well, what if you had to do something similar like that, maybe in a harder setting of the game?
Stop it!
Some people may not like that. But if you had crafting, more like crafting your
He's back.
makeshift shelter or whatever, and it was low level, you'd have leaks in your tent or whatever like
What the
that.
fuck is wrong with you? Pompey, stop! You're a fucking asshole.
Pompey, you've been demonetized.
God damn it.
Yeah, Pompey, you're ruining everything.
The cat is
No.
literally not...
This is
You're
why we can't have
grounded.
nice things.
He's trying to start as much shit as he can because he knows we are recording. Sorry.
You're so grounded.
You are being a little McDouchey douche. You're the cute kitty until you're a McDouche. Okay. Go on. What were you saying?
Oh my goodness, I totally lost track.
You're talking about survival and everything else.
Oh yeah, like a crafting skill tree. If you sucked at it, your tent would
starts
leak,
leaking,
and
you wake up with a mild case of pneumonia and you need to get it treated, otherwise
right,
it'll progress.
or you're not able to make a sleeping bag with this thick of a material because your crafting level is too low, and therefore you're going to be cold because it's not thick enough. And
Yeah, you wake up
same
with
for
like
clothing.
half stamina or something like that because you're cold.
Yeah, even tie that into armor crafting and such.
Yeah,
And durability.
yeah, durability. I want to see durability on armor and weapons come back as long as we're talking about a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about earlier about like the city building and stuff like that. You know, maybe a good first step, because that's so intensive, is maybe business or career building, right? I've got all this extra loot on my chest and stuff, right? Well, maybe I start a weapon shop or an armor shop or something like that, right? And I start selling to people and I get customers and they come in. I start making enough money that I can actually hire someone to run the shop for me. It starts making me money residually whenever I come to town.
That would be awesome.
You know,
yeah.
like that could be a good first step towards the city building.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like pretty much, I guess that's it. That's all I got for a wish list. They do a really good job. I'm actually really, really happy with the Elder Scrolls series. So.
Yeah. Like you said, they do such a good job, and the cool thing about the Elder Scrolls is the fact that there's so much more that could be added to it isn't because they're not adding into it. It's just they've built such a good game and such a good setting and foundation that you don't know what the limit is. You don't know what they're going to do next time, and it just keeps everyone hyped. All they need to do is just maybe talk about Elder Scrolls 6 a little bit so we're not in the dark. They say they're making it, but, everyone knows how it is. You guys know a lot of what I want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6. I've put videos out about it. There's a couple things I'd like to say. This kind of goes with what Panda and Sam said. I want survival. Pompey, don't start shit again. Sorry. I want survival. I want immersion. I want there to be... they kind of touched into this with Fallout 4, with survival mode. You need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to drink. I want that in Elder Scrolls 6.
Right on.
I want to feel like I have to think about getting food and where I'm going to sleep, and maybe even the weather. I want there to be maybe dynamic seasons and even Elder Scrolls holidays, because that exists in the lore already. So you have to worry about and plan your adventure. Do I need to bring anything warm? How much food do I need to bring? And that would add more value and uses to food, which already exists in the game's code and assets. I mean, the only purpose people have bread, apples, and cheese now is so they could cook something or so they can spam it when they pause the game and realize they're out of health potions. I mean, food has a really weird place in the Elder Scrolls games right now.
It doesn't make any sense.
It'd
you
be
know?
nice
Yeah.
if it gave you some kind of boost.
Yeah, like you're in the middle of a fight, right? Someone's about to run you through with their sword. You pause the game and stuff your face with the largest amount of raw food, bread, and cheese.
Yeah, and suddenly you're good now.
And suddenly, when it hits you, it doesn't kill you. Like, that's not the place for food in Elder Scrolls, I don't think.
No, a game that's so immersive and realistic in some ways, it doesn't make sense to me.
It definitely, I like where you can get hungry in that one mod that I'm terrible at remembering names.
There's a couple mods for that, but yeah.
But oh my goodness, you do spend a lot of time gathering food.
And then the food goes bad.
Hunting.
And
Yeah,
then you get rid of it.
Spoils. That's great. Awesome.
And then you get water from a stream, you might get sick, which hopefully you can cure it, or you can boil it, or, there's so many different options and things.
It's fun, but it takes a lot longer to progress through the map because you have to survive, so.
But I don't mind that as much. I like that. I like to make it feel like I'm building up from this frail little guy that was just kicked off a cart and almost had his head cut off and he barely remembers who he is, to becoming essentially a demigod in the game. Like you're almost unstoppable if you max out all your skills and your max level and you have all the gear you have. You pretty much become almost a god walking around around people. So I want that progression to feel like, man, not only did I have to overcome all these hard challenges and and almost died because of these rats and wolves early on. I almost starved a bunch of times. I was homeless and I had to find cave to sleep in sometimes and make fire. I overcame all this to get to the point to where I can look at a dragon and just slam it into the ground by speaking a word and then cutting its head off and going about my day. Like, that makes the whole adventure feel even more like a real and motivating experience.
It'll be a tough balance to find because they already have the day and night progression set at, like, you know, regular intervals.
Yeah.
They're probably going to have to lengthen those intervals, right? So that there's more of that. But then more of that feel that you're talking about, right? But then the Occam's razor of that is that as someone who is actually living in real life and not on Nern, right?
Yeah.
You can't devote the kind of real time to doing that. So,
Right.
like, you have to be careful, right? Because you definitely want that kind of immersion, but you also don't want it to cost all of your free time, too.
In the mod, I don't think the days are shortened at all, which does make it seem like, man, I gotta stop and sleep again. Your progression is
Right.
slow.
I could probably get a
Lengthen
mod
the
to
intervals,
extend that, yeah.
You know, maybe that would cut down on some of that.
That's true, yeah. It could make the days better and more realistic, which isn't a bad thing, really.
Right.
I mean, it allows you to adventure more, and you shouldn't have to focus on finding food every 30
it just
minutes.
may be
You
difficult
know what I
for
mean?
people that are looking for a lot of action
Right.
immediately.
And,
Yeah.
you know, for those people, Skyrim definitely has that from the word go.
Sky-
Like you were talking about, like, almost
Well,
getting your head
Skyrim
cut.
does, yeah.
Elder Scrolls usually lets people choose the way they want to play. Bethesda does a good job at that. I'm sure they'll find a way for people to choose this too. Maybe you just go eat at an inn and they give you a meal and you're good. You know, there's probably going to be the shortcuts, but there's always that cost of the shortcut. Like, you want to fast travel? Okay, well, you're not going to come across this cool shit. You're not going to level up. And like you said, there should be the random events of fast travel, because fast travel seems like it's a little bit of an overpowered game mechanic in Elder Scrolls right now.
Yeah, that, and, like, I had maybe talked about getting attacked. But there are, like, other options for actions or events that happen when you're fast traveling. You know, all of a sudden you stop and it loads up, and there's a message that tells you there's someone in distress nearby. Do you want to continue fast traveling, or would you like to stop and assist? You know, like, there's a lot of directions they could go with that.
That's good, yeah.
And I feel like that's something that so far they've missed out on. They haven't missed much, but, like, that could be something that they could really bring a lot of real feel into the game.
Yeah, there could be good random events, yeah. Maybe Sheogorath appears and is like, I'm bored, here's a sword! And he just gives you a fucking badass sword for no reason, and then poof, he's gone.
Why not?
And then you're like, well, okay, thanks. You know, I mean, there could be good events, there could be, you could be walking and the meteor comes out of the sky and lands in front of you, and suddenly you have, what do they call this in, sky metal, I think is what they call that in fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see a falling star crash ahead of you, and you run up to it, and you mine it for the star metal, right? And then after you obtain the object, right, during that little mini travel mission, right, it prompts you, would you like to continue your fast travel or not? You know, maybe you want to explore the area for some more stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
That'd be really awesome. Yeah, those are all, a lot of our ideas and wish lists actually kind of went together tonight, which is cool.
Yeah.
All of them combined would have built a
Yeah.
pretty awesome Elder Scrolls game.
Now, I did think of, like, my only kind of plot hole with aging children is, what about you?
Yeah, if you don't age.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know, you could be immortal somehow, a
Somehow.
tonic, or metagame, or...
Or, like, you get to the point where your character is aged, you've raised your child, right? And your character dies of natural causes in their sleep, and you go to sleep one day, and maybe you wake up as your son or daughter, and now you're
Yeah.
playing that character, and your save is now in their name.
Ooh, and you can build your legacy.
Yeah, and, like, the family name, there could be, like, people could write biographies about members of your family and whatnot when they die. Oh, well, these are all the good deeds that this character did, and then, like, that would be something that you have a physical record in the game that your character exists, like your digital mark that you left on Nern.
That would be really cool.
And interestingly enough, there is already a system in Elder Scrolls for this, because if you remember creating your character ever since, I think, Morrowind, I don't know if this was in Daggerfall, because I only played Daggerfall briefly. I went back and played it, and I couldn't, I mean, the game I'm sure is good, but going back to those graphics, I can't do too much of it. But anyway, You can change the age of your character. You can make their face completely, and then you can put the age up and see what they look like as an old person. And so you can already get an aging process based on your character's face and probably other characters' faces in the game anyway, as that process already exists. So they already have, again, this in the game code and assets. A lot of this stuff they can just...
Well, the other thing is, how would they determine the aging process? They could say, okay, by gameplay hours, okay, so I wouldn't want the time I had to pause counted into that.
I wouldn't say gameplay hours if I was going to make a suggestion. I don't mean to interrupt the but
no,
go ahead.
I would say that if I was going to make a suggestion on that, it would probably be they already have seasons and they already have days that they keep track of, right?
Oh.
So whatever the planetary cycle is for NERN, so if they have like 500 days in their year, after you've gotten 500 game days logged, you age relatively 1 year. You know, it's a medieval time period. Maybe they live until they're 50 or 55. You choose your starting age. That's pretty easy programming to pop in at the beginning, character generation, and all of a sudden, you know, you have a game where when you die, as long as you have progeny, right, you get to keep going on that save file. You don't necessarily have to start over.
That's really awesome.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool. I was thinking if they had, because if they're going to have the seasons implemented in the holidays, maybe there's certain, maybe this doesn't happen too much in the game, but after you complete a certain main quest, or you get so far, cinematic happens, an event happens, time passes, and then you're in the next season. And that could kind of push you forward and push time forward, because even though you're not playing for 5 years, certain events happen with whatever the story is. Maybe your character had to go settle down somewhere, maybe whatever. You know, we can metagame into that, but something happens and it's just the next season, and that's how the season's go.
Maybe once you have progeny that reaches a certain age, an age of maturity, they start going out and adventuring on their own. Maybe after every battle, like when the battle ends, maybe you're given an option. Do you elect to retire? Maybe there's like a peaceful way to retire, and then you can like go to the cottage and you'll be like, all right, now I'm playing as my son.
And your main character is an NPC.
Thok the second, right? Because my main character was Thok. Thok retired, right? Thok the second is now going around beating people up with a board and blunt weapon. And when I want to go and visit my father, right, on his farm or whatever, maybe that's another foot into the city builder. Because, you know, now Thok, the original Thok, the first, has all of the money and the resources and everything, right? And so maybe that's a way that you can tie things together a little bit.
That would be cool, yeah. And then if you're actually able to retire your character, your new character can go to your dad or his sibling, mom, whatever it is, and get training. You know, you can hear whatever.
Sure.
Get cool dialogue. And a lot of people have been saying they want to see their previous characters, like the Neverine and the Hero Kavach and the Dragonborn, as NPCs in the world, because it's a mystery what happens to them. I mean, people can speculate.
They're so far removed in the timeline. Right?
Yeah,
We're talking about eras separate these characters.
Except for the Hero Kavach is a unique one, because he becomes Sheogorath.
And if you had multiple citizens on a homestead, you'd have to have a set date or age of the character and when they'd have to pass, because there would eventually be a limit on how many characters you could have on the lot.
Sure. About what you said about the Hero Kavach becoming the Sheogorath. Is that really true, Mr. Dragonbreak, or is that just one of the all of the true possibilities?
Well, that would depend on whether or not
there is one universe where he is Sheogorath, but maybe there's another one where he's not. Right?
I think that would depend on whether or not the time wound caused a dragon break that lasted until Elduin's death in the 4th era, or not. Because I don't know if a dragon break happened in Oblivion. I mean, Maroon's Dagon did invade, but I don't know if that would cause a dragon break, because that is interesting though. But also to touch on what you're saying is the reason that the Hero Kavach became Sheogorath is because he found some kind of way to almost end, I believe, I don't remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but he ended this ongoing cycle of battle between Sheogorath and Jigalag, who is the Daedric Prince of Order, and they would fight and shit would happen and stuff. But somehow I think you ended it.
Yeah, so
and then you became Sheogorath.
Jigalag, or however you pronounce it, he is the alternate personality of Sheogorath. They are the same person, right?
It's like, you're right.
So what happens is he is so chaotic that he actually goes full circle and becomes super order, right? Like, that's how crazy Sheogorath is. And so he goes through these cycles where his realm, which is the Shivering Isles, I believe.
Yes.
There are these era of cycles where he's Sheogorath for this long, and then his other personality that's been dormant while Sheogorath was prominent. Jiggalag becomes more dominant and prominent, and then the Shivering Isles start to change into more of like a crystalline area. And then what you do in Oblivion as the hero of Kvatch is you help keep Sheogorath in charge, because basically the argument is the evil you know as opposed to the evil you don't.
Yeah,
right?
they don't know if Jiggalag would invade the regular Tamriel and be worse.
Sheogorath. So.
And Jiggalag was actually he's actually pretty damn strong. What was it? His Knights of Order, I believe they were. Those guys are fucking hard.
Something like that.
Yeah,
they were tough.
yeah.
They were tough.
Huh,
they
that's
popped
pretty
out like
interesting.
3 or 4 at a time.
So if your character became Sheogorath, did that permanently end Jiggalag? Or is Jiggalag going to
for,
come back
for
later?
the next cycle?
Okay.
Right? Like, because Daedric princes are like these
They're immortal,
godlike,
yeah.
immortal entities, right? So all you basically did was stop the cycle this time.
He went to lay down and take a nap for a little bit.
He went back to sleep.
So it's possible then that a new hero that we don't know about, who's really fucking good, did the same thing and became the new Sheogorath. So in which case, what the fuck happens to the hero Kvatch? Who is he now? Does he become Jiggalag? Oh, damn.
Where is he now?
Where is he now? The hero Kvatch. Zooming in on his face, he's like drunk
behind
in the
the
corner.
buckler. Hero of Kvatch.
He's like inhaling spray paint behind 7-Eleven. I used to be Sheogorath! I used to like cheese! So yeah, that's kind of what we want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6. Like I said, I want to hear what you think about not only what you want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6, but what you think about all this. And where do you think the hero Kvatch is now, if he is no longer Sheogorath? We're going to go ahead and do some comments and then end it, but we do plan on some future episodes being longer. Today we have a schedule thing, so we have to kind of cut it at the normal time, but I know some of you have been wanting the podcast to be as long as an hour.
I want pizza.
Yeah, pizza's cool. But no, we're going to definitely maybe try and shoot for longer podcasts, but we're going to go ahead and get to some comments, maybe respond to a few of them, and then we're going to end the podcast. Here's one. This is kind of in response to a previous podcast we did where we talked about a steampunk-esque Elder Scrolls based in elsewhere in maybe the 5th or 6th era. And Abdulasaurus, I love that name. You've commented on my stuff before. I love your fucking name. Maybe comment and tell me how you came up with that name. But anyway, Adulasaurus says, nah, steampunk should be kept as a rare thing, like a Dwemer thing. And I kind of wanted to know how you felt about that, Panda. Do you think that steampunk should not have much of a part in the Elder Scrolls and should always remain rare, like that Akaviri thing? Or do you think that it's worth having a steampunk-heavy Elder Scrolls?
I personally feel like, because we were talking about in the other podcast, that it's been a rare thing for long enough. We're talking about 5 other titles, right, that didn't really do it, like, predominantly. And so I feel like it's about time that we moved up in technology. You know, just because the Dwemer are no longer here doesn't mean we don't have their technology to look at, right, and examine and back engineer. We have mages doing it in all the games, and so why not take that and progress it a couple hundred years? See what happens. Let's take some risks, right? Like, we've had a lot of medieval Elder Scrolls, and that's fan-friggin-tastic, and I don't want to lose any of those elements. I'm just saying, like, let's open some new doors and windows. Let's breathe some air and some life into it. I don't want to be waiting another God knows how many years for an Elder Scrolls 7 when and if Elder Scrolls 6 ever comes out. So, like, if it takes, making risks and taking chances, let's do that.
Yeah, we haven't really seen there's a lot of cool factions and races in the Elder Scrolls, but we haven't really seen one that's technology heavy, except for obviously the dwarves who disappeared randomly.
And we only get tiny tastes.
Yeah, we only get tiny tastes, so it would be interesting to have a tech-heavy race. And in the Elder Scrolls, and based on the time period that it would be, they'd probably be in their Renaissance-esque, so they'd probably be kind of steampunk a little bit, which would go with the dwarves. So I kind of would like to see that. I have a theory video. I don't want to say anything about it yet because it's kind of crazy, but you're going to hear me talk about this more in another video. What do you think, Sam? Do you want to see more technology in the Elder Scrolls a little bit?
I'm really torn. I like the idea of guns and such, but it still just doesn't feel totally Elder Scrolls to me yet. I think it could be beautifully done. Maybe in the future. Maybe Elder Scrolls
7
8.
or 8, yeah.
Yeah, maybe 8.
Okay. Here's another one. Private Ryan says, I'd like Starfield. If you look at how space-themed last year's E3 was and all the space stuff in Fallout 4, it kind of makes sense. Starfield, a lot of you probably know, is the rumored Bethesda project that's supposed to be a space-based RPG. Some people think it may be in the same timeline as Elder Scrolls and Fallout. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but I'm kind of curious what you guys think about a space-based game. Kind of like a... What the fuck am I saying here?
Well,
A Bethesda-based space RPG. I don't know why I couldn't formulate my thought.
What was that one that we played?
Mass Effect?
No. Oh yes, Mass Effect. No, the one where we went planet to planet.
We're talking about FTL?
Or something like that. Whatever it was combined with Elder Scrolls where you're going to the different docking
No Man's
stations.
Sky or Elite
that
Dangerous?
Yeah, Elite
Okay.
Dangerous. But like actually having to dock and trade off your items and go.
So that's like some Wing Commander level
Yeah.
stuff. That
So when you were talking about like a space-based RPG,
mm-hmm.
I'm immediately thinking of something along the lines of like Firefly. Right?
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Where you may not have all the resources you need, and you have to find a way to keep your crew paid, or
Right.
maybe if you start out as a member of a crew, you have to make sure you get paid, and you're picking a ship that's like meeting your needs.
And maybe get reputation as well.
Oh, of course, definitely,
Yeah, that'd be really
raise
awesome.
ranks and eventually have your own ship.
definitely.
Level up your ships, maybe. Yeah, that would be awesome. And then you can always wonder what the next planet has in store for you.
You know, that opens up some new ideas for like skill trees, like a computer hacking kind of skill tree. So like you don't even have to be necessarily an aggressive like shoot 'em up kind of a character in that. You can just be a support type of character.
I'm kind of, as much as I like the Elder Scrolls 6, I might be willing to wait one more game for a Bethesda space RPG because it does sound like it could be pretty awesome. I might take some hate for saying this because people really want Elder Scrolls 6, and I do too, but I kind of want to see what Bethesda does with the space RPG.
You know, they can just keep on making as many new games as they want, as long as they just don't give up on the franchise.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. You know, keep pushing the envelope, keep taking risks. I still want to play Elder Scrolls.
With how long everybody's been waiting, Elder Scrolls 6 has to be phenomenal for the franchise to survive.
You might be right.
That's kind of true. If they screw it up, who knows what's going to happen, because a lot of people are kind of pissed at Bethesda right now for A, not releasing it in time, which is kind of silly for being pissed at them for not releasing Elder Scrolls 6 soon, but I can understand. But B, they're pissed at them because Bethesda doesn't necessarily ever really talk about their projects until right before they release them. That's just their strategy because they want people to have all that imagination-based hype until the game comes out. And then when it's announced, you're hyped for what it is, and then shortly after that, you can buy it and play it. There's no decay period for the hype. They do a good job at making sure they hit at every spike of the hype levels. So while we can hate on them all we want for them not telling us what they're working on and et cetera, they're kind of geniuses in terms of managing hype levels. Whether you think they are or not, it's proven good for them before.
Indeed. Next question.
We can go ahead and do one more real quick. Elder Scrolls 6 Black Flag would work quite well if set on the Somerset Isles, which he's kind of talking about if you're not familiar with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which involved going from island to island, exploring each island, and every new island being a new mystery. Kind of like Wind Waker, I believe is the name of the Zelda, where you go from island to island. There's a few games like that, and I think that would be awesome because, like I said in my last video with the ship and ship exploration, seeing the island far off in the distance and you're getting closer and closer to it, and then you finally set foot on it, just the whole hype that you'd have to see what that island has, the anticipation of finding its secrets, and then after you finish everything on that island, oh look, there's another one off in the distance, and another one, which one should I go to? And you make all these decisions, and there could be a very big mainland, in case you don't like getting your feet wet for too long, and the Somerset Isles would be a perfect place for that, because there are a few main islands, and then a lot of little archipelagos, and secrets, and everything else, and that could tie in with what you were saying about the naval combat, and sunken temples. It would be a whole new Elder Scrolls experience, a sea-based one where you're on a ship, not most of the time, but part of the time. It would be a whole new experience, and it would be awesome. I think it would be pretty cool, so yeah, I'd love to see something like that.
Definitely.
Anything else you guys want to say before we close up shop on Scribing the Scrolls? No, episode 5.
Subscribe, everyone.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
Chip.
Make sure you hit that button.
Don't forget to select your notifications.
Yeah, YouTube has been doing something where they've been turning off notifications for people.
Yeah, even I ended up being unsubscribed at one point. My notifications got turned off.
So keep an eye on that. Make sure that you're still subscribed and that notifications on. And as always, follow me on Twatters. Thank you for watching.
Bye, have a great time.